Hey, good morning. I'm horticulturist Gary Bachman. It's time for another daily dose of hort. Well, over the 4th of July weekend, I always pull the tomato plants out. That means I have to sow tomatoes for the second summer or the fall season. And just want to remind everybody and show everybody just exactly how I start the tomatoes here at the Urban Nano Farm. I used to use the little 6-packs. Oh, and I don't got any. Kato, go over and reach. Yeah, there we go. Thank you, dear. I used to use the little 6-packs, and a couple years ago I started using the Craig LaHouliere method that has been promoted on, in his Epic Tomato book, and also with Joe Lample at the Joe Gardner podcast, of not just sowing a single seed in a cell, so we get 6 plants here. Craig had the idea of sowing multiple seeds per cell, so you reduce the amount of space that you use. I was doing it in the 6-packs, and this past year, I started using these little 2.5-inch square cups and sowing multiple seeds in here. I think that this worked out a lot better, and I think I got a lot better root development and seedling development when we get ready to step these up into bigger pots before transplanting. So I've got some filled here. Of course, I use professional growing mix. I'm not a big fan of germination mixes, the fine mixes. I like to use this. This is the Jolly Gardener. You can see the big particle sizes in here, and we've shown how these mixes are composed of particle sizes that are all different sizes, and that gives you good water holding capacity. It also gives you good aeration, get good root development in these mixes. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to sow the seed, but then I'm going to top it off with a finer mix. And this really isn't a germination mix. It's actually the Jolly Gardener that I've screened out some of the smaller particles. And I do that because I don't want to mix mixes. Even though you might think that it's not a big deal, it could be a big deal, and I think it's worth doing this. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. And during the summer season, I think I planted 24 different kinds of tomatoes. The fall season, I'm only going to plant 6. I've got a couple versions, and these are all seeds that I've saved, and we've seen how I save seeds in the little pill bottles. A couple versions of Black Seaman. I'm going to use Homestead, which was developed in Homestead, Florida in the 1950s. It's a great tomato. I'm going to use what I call Heinz. This is a sauce tomato, okay? The paste tomato. I just call it Heinz. And then I'm going to grow Orange Blossom. And then finally, I'm going to do the Garden Gem from Proven Winners. This is Mississippi Medallion winner last year, and turned out to be a good fall producer for me last year. Now all of these, I'm just going to go ahead and get. Oh, hang on a second. I got to move my table, because with all of this, we always have to write tags and things of what we're doing here. Oh, there we go. All of these that we're gonna sow here today are all determinate varieties, and I'm a big fan of determinants. Here, I'm just gonna show you how we do this. Separate some of these seeds out, and I think that's a good batch right there. And I'm just going to do it like that. Put some on top. And I'll tell you what, just to save a little time, I'm not going to put the tags in, but I'm going to put the little bottles next to the pots. Grow tomatoes, or the determinants. I like to grow the determinants in the spring season, but I also like to grow them in the fall season. And there's a reason for that. We did a study several years ago of fall heirloom tomatoes. And we did several different varieties, but they were all indeterminates. And what we found was the plants would grow like crazy and put on fruit, but the fruit wouldn't ripen. And came to the conclusion, as we get into the fall of the year, we have these indeterminate tomatoes. They're growing vegetatively because they just keep growing, but they're also trying to grow reproductively, so they're trying to produce fruit. And in the fall of the year, what's going on? The days are getting shorter, the temperatures are dropping, and so there's not enough resources for those indeterminate plants, at least in our zone, in our experience, to adequately produce vegetative growth and reproductive growth. So the tomatoes that did form, that did start to turn green, never turned red. We tried topping the plants, seeing if that would make a difference, and it didn't. At the same time, we were growing determinate tomatoes here at the Urban Nano Farm, and we're getting tomatoes like crazy. And it was because we were growing the determinants. They had reached their physiological or their genetic size, mature size, so there was no requirement for increased vegetative growth. They could put all the energy, all the photosynthetic energy that the plant was collecting into producing fruit. So that's why in the fall of the year I only do determinants. So now that we've got the seeds all on there, I'm just going to take the pots like this and tamp them down, and that to make sure I don't transfer seeds back and forth. And that's going to help ensure good seed mix contact, which will help with germination. And then I'm going to do this one, no seeds. Usually there's some seeds stuck on there. I'm going to go ahead and take the fine mix and then cover the seeds. We like to cover. Tomato seeds need darkness to germinate, so we're gonna do this. And you might think that I'm putting it on a little thick, but you'll see why I'm doing it this way. And then I'm actually not pressing this lighter mix onto the seeds on top of the other mix. Can you get that okay, Kate? Does that that looks fine? And this is really a technique that I like to use really with everything I plant. If it's in the ground in a container, I like to put whatever I'm putting in there, put the mix in, but not pat that down at that point, because I like to take the water and take the water like that, and look what happens as that water runs through. It compresses. We'll show it again. See how that water is helping that mix actually compress naturally and push down on those seeds. And you always, when you're doing this, always use a mix that's pre-moistened. It will help. It'll help with water in the container. And I'll just set that right there. And then what I'll do is I'll take these. Now I know I haven't put tags in them yet, right? I'm going to put them in the same. No, just put. Oh, okay. I see what you're doing here. Thank you. Put them in the same order in here. That was a good idea, because I'll have to put tags in here eventually. Into a tray that doesn't have any holes in it, because I'm going to put this on my germination rack, and put a cover on it. I'll put it on the heat pad, set about 80 degrees. They like to germinate in warm soil temperatures. And then once we start seeing a few seedlings pop out, we're pretty much sure that the rest of them are going. So we'll go ahead and we'll take the cover off so we don't get any damping off issues with the seedlings that are started. So that's how I'm getting going for the fall tomato season. So if you want to do a fall season, you want to grow your own tomatoes, now's the time to go ahead and get those seedlings started so you can have transplants ready for middle of March, right? Middle of what month? Middle of August. Let's do that, and then we'll have tomatoes. And if it's a nice mild fall, we could have tomatoes all the way up to Thanksgiving, and I think that's pretty cool. So with that, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time for another Daily Dose of Hort.